All right, very interesting developments going on in the war between Israel and the people of Gaza. At the start of the war, you folks may recall that Israel ordered about 1 million people living in the northern portion of Gaza, which is where Gaza City is, the big population center. They just ordered all those people get out of there because this is going to be a war zone, and if you don't get out in time, we're just going to consider everyone to be, an enemy combatant. Which, there is some logic to that, in that, when you're in urban warfare, especially against an irregular fighting force, which is what Hamas is, they don't have uniforms for the most part. And so you don't really know if you're walking through the street, you just open fire on somebody. And they either could be an enemy soldier or they could be a civilian. You have no real way of knowing. And so there is some logic in what the Israelis said. With that said, I mean, I've been very critical of everything Israel's done. I think that they are absolutely responsible for the 7,500 deaths. I think that was the latest count I saw in Gaza, obviously dwarfing the 1,400 who were killed in the terrorist attack launched by Hamas. Even if the body counts were evil, if Hamas killed 1,400 innocent Israelis, Israel killing 1,400 innocent Gazans, that obviously is not okay. Two wrongs don't make a right. I shouldn't have to say these things, but I do, because there are people like Brian Mast, awful Republican congressman from Florida. He's also a gun grabber, and he loves to wave his bloody shirt in everyone's face and say, I was in a war, I've been in the military, and so I can take away your guns because I've used guns, and I know that guns are bad, and civilians shouldn't have them. Only experienced military professionals like me, Brian Mast, should have a gun. And then I will take that gun, and I will use it to shoot innocent civilians in Gaza, because there are no such thing as innocent civilians in Gaza, just like there weren't innocent civilians in Nazi Germany. That is now Brian Mast, who I found out today is an IDF veteran as well. I thought he was a U.S. military veteran. Maybe he's a veteran of both. But yes, so we now have former Israeli soldiers lecturing us Americans about the absence of innocent civilians, the non-existence of innocent civilians, the fallacy of this concept of the innocent civilian that people like me and many others cling to bitterly. But that's not the main thing I wanted to talk about today. I've gotten way off track. We're 3 minutes in, and I've buried the lead. The lead is that Israel has apparently completely cut off Gaza City from the rest of Gaza. And this goes back to those 1 million people I told you were ordered out. Population of Gaza is about 2 million. Israel told the 1 million people living in Gaza City, get out. You've been warned. A lot of those people got out. I would think the vast majority of them. A lot of them did not. A lot of them have been killed. A lot of them are still there. And as of now, they've been completely cut off. It is going to get very bad for people there who are still in Gaza City, because they are surrounded. And there is no one coming in, no one going out. There's going to be no supplies. They're going to become even more destitute than the people in the south of Gaza, who are already cut off from the rest of the world. The Israelis have sent in their ground troops, and they are engaging in urban warfare, which is, under the best of circumstances, very bloody for all sides. And so, from what I understand, Israel has essentially cut off Gaza at as far south as I think it's they call it number 10 road or number 10 highway. I was able to find it on the map. It is a road that runs east and west, and it is south of Gaza City. So if Israel controls everything along that road from the Israeli border to the coast, which is best information I've seen that is the case. That is sort of the current line of control. Now, Israel does not control everything north of that. No, far from it. What Israel did was they punched a hole right down the middle of Gaza to split it in two. And now they're going to focus their assault on Gaza City. And so they have succeeded essentially in, or, well, they haven't succeeded yet, but at the end of this, if things continue to go this way, they will have succeeded in shrinking the Gaza Strip, because they cleansed, or they haven't done it yet, they will presumably at some point, the bulk of the population is out of Gaza City. They're now in the south of Gaza, outside of the city. And it's not exactly, in terms of land, it's not a 50-50 split right now. I guess you would say the city maybe takes up the area that they're in. It's like the top 25 to 33%, 1/4 to 1/3 of the Gaza Strip is now cut off. And presumably Israel will consolidate control over that area. And the people of Gaza will be confined to the lower 2/3 below this area. This spot. Now, again, do I know this for sure? Do I have access to, Israel's secret plan? No. I'm just going by logically what Israel's done in the past when they've managed to forcibly remove the Palestinian populations from different areas, such as after the Nakba back in 48. Israel does not just let people come back. This was a debate for decades. Now, it doesn't get talked about anymore because it's so far in the past, but it was called the Palestinian right of return. No one even remembers this debate, and so everyone just thinks that the Palestinians never lived in Israel, that they were just always in refugee camps in Jordan and Syria and Lebanon, and that it's Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon's fault for not making them citizens. Oh, these poor refugees have been stuck in refugee camps. It's like, wait, why are they refugees? It's like, oh yeah, they were ethnically cleansed from Israel because Israel wanted to have a, 80% majority Jewish country. So they had to run their neighbors out of town, and that's what has happened in Gaza. So if they've accomplished that, and currently Gaza is held by Hamas, but they are, and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, I believe as well, but they're surrounded now. Israel has them surrounded. The military forces are separated largely from the civilian forces. And so Israel is going to go through, presumably, bombing the city, as well as, house-to-house type urban warfare, cleansing the north of everyone who's left behind. And I think at this point, the Israelis are going to treat anyone they find as an enemy. And so I don't know how many people are left in Gaza City. I know there were a lot of people, who said they weren't leaving. I don't know what's going to become of them. I don't know if there's enough of them that the Israelis can just kill them all, or if they will have to open up maybe humanitarian corridors in the future, so to speak, so that they can continue to cleanse the population, get them out of there. Essentially engage in a bunch of punitive strikes, which will inevitably kill, let's say, hundreds of civilians. And then the Israelis will go, hey, in order to prevent civilian casualties in the future, let's open up this humanitarian corridor, total amnesty. Anyone who wants to leave Gaza City, get out right now. And in doing so, they will be able to get more and more of the civilians out of there until pretty much everyone's gone. And everyone who stays behind to fight will be killed off one by one, at which point the Israelis will have total control of Gaza City, which will be a pile of rubble. It won't be anything particularly desirable, but it will be free of the other. It will be free of the Arabs that the Israelis do not want polluting their so-called democracy. And so at that point, there really would be no reason for Israel not to annex Gaza City. and start moving in their own population, which is what they did after, in the rest of so-called Israel proper today. Between 48 and 67, they, wherever they were able to expel, the vast majority of the Arab population, and these areas were deserted, Israel made them a part of their state, and they moved in their own people. So nothing official. I haven't heard Netanyahu come out and say, hey, we're going to take over Gaza City and we're going to keep it for ourselves and here's how we're going to do it. I haven't heard him say that, but just looking at what they're doing, looking at their actions and knowing, their past history, that's what seems the most logical to me. Now, this is going to lead to a bunch of problems in the new, smaller Gaza because all of these people who now live there, or who are now there, have nowhere to live. They're just, just living on the streets because they're, the giant city with all of the infrastructure and the housing and the businesses. That's all up north where Israel is, destroying it. And what little remains, people will not be able to go back to because I just don't see Israel letting them go back. If they did, that would be, that would be a different story. I'd just be wrong. I'm making a value judgment here, or I'm making a judgment call. It's not a value judgment. I'm trying to make a prediction. I'm trying to make sense of what's going on, which is what you have to do during a time of war. Fog of war is always very thick. It's a cliche for a reason. So, with that said, I will continue following this situation, and I will see you folks back here tomorrow.